Hello, everyone. Happy evening. A very good evening. I hope and I believe all of you are doing well. A quick note whether the audio visual is all good. Just a minute. I'm not able to get this. Give me a minute, guys. I'm not able to see the live chat. I'm not able to access it. Just give me a minute. Okay, all right. So finally, here it is. A happy evening, everyone. A very good evening. I hope and I believe all of you are doing well. And welcome to the today's YouTube live session, which is Physiology Binge Revision. Why Physiology? Because in our timetable, the daily targets, we have Physiology in our timetable, right? The 35 days timetable for NEET PG that we are following. For anyone who does not know about that timetable, you are most welcome to the Telegram group. All right. Thank you so much. I am good. And regulation of respiration, Manoj, it's there in the PDF, right? We plan to cover it today. I've shared the PDF of this session on the Telegram group already. So for those who want to make the notes alongside, then you can definitely get that as well. Thank you so much, Kavya, for that. It was a pleasant surprise for me as well. Kaira coming into the scene, it was totally like a pleasant surprise. Oh yes, annotations वाला PDF में कुछ वो भी मिल जाएगा. You guys are like ये दिल मांगे more. जितना भी है उतना कम है. We want more and more. Okay. Oh, Deeps, there's someone who's joined Radiology. Heartiest congratulations, but still here. I think now you are on the other side to guide the juniors. So you are most welcome to the platform if you would like to contribute as well. Telegram group is Dr. Nikita's Radsynapse. You can just search for my name, Dr. Nikita Nanwani, on Telegram. You would get that. Darrow Unit Diagrams VK, it's also there in the plan today. Okay. Thank you so much, Thalai Kali. Thank you so much. Okay. So let's start with the discussion and let me tell you the plan for tomorrow. So tomorrow we have only one session. So for a change, we don't have the marathon of sessions tomorrow, but we have only one session tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 7th, right? Tomorrow is the 7th of April and we have only one session at 10 p.m. And that too is at the Unacademy app. It's a free live class. And we will be having KBMD, that is Kaun Banega MD, a live quiz of fast 5 clinical scenarios. So KBMDs are something that you should not be missing on. Okay, because they'll give you a lot of practice for MCQs, the fast 5 KBMDs and the top 10 mnemonics KBMD, which will help you revise the mnemonics. Okay, so that's the plan for tomorrow. 10 p.m., 7th April, we'll have only one class, that is KBMD Fast 5. Okay. All right, so let's start with the discussion. Starting with the first one, very, very important, that is the basal ganglia, right? The connections in the basal ganglia. So let's just revise that. Okay, thank you so much, Kapil, Thalai Kali, everyone here. So this is the story mnemonic that we have to remember this, the basal ganglia connections. So this is, imagine the basal ganglia connections. It's basically like a network of roads that you have. You have the input, and the final thing where all this goes, the basal ganglia basically send the signals to the premotor cortex, from where the motor activities are controlled. Okay. So now, okay, if I'll plan on that. So what is the premotor cortex? Imagine the premotor cortex is like the PM office. Okay, the head office, the PM office. Now, be it the PM. Okay, let me zoom this image for you. So, be it the PM, that is the Prime Minister, that is the cortex. The premotor cortex is like the office of the PM. Okay. So, be it the Prime Minister or be it the police constable, the senior police constable. SNPC is a senior police constable. All of those have to enter the city to reach the PM office. They have to go via this toll naka, the entrance to the city, which is the striatum. Okay, this is the toll naka that you are seeing. So basically, the main entry into the basal ganglia for everybody is via the striatum. So be it the cortex or be it the SNPC, that is your substantia nigra pars compacta. Now these are going through the striatum. Now, to reach the PM office, basically you have two pathways. You can see there is one direct road, that is the andar ka rasta, the internal road, which is a shortcut. And then you have a longer road, which is the external road, which you can see is going around the entire city. So the andar ka road, that is your interna, the globus pallidus interna is your andar ka road. It's a shortcut. It directly goes to the thalamus and then to the premotor cortex, right? All the basal ganglia basically first give input to the thalamus, and from there it goes to the premotor cortex. The external road, that is your globus pallidus externa, it's a longer road. It goes via the subthalamus and via the GPI. Finally, it's coming to the inner road, right? And then it is going to the thalamus. So basically, I hope you are understanding the connections. Everybody goes through the striatum. From the striatum, either you can go to the GPI, the inner road, or you can go to the external road, that is the GPE. If you go via the inner road, it's your shortcut road directly to the thalamus and then to the premotor cortex. External road is basically ghumke, you are coming to the GPI, that is your globus pallidus externa, subthalamus going to GPI and then going to your thalamus and the premotor cortex. So if I ask you that which is the major output from the basal ganglia? So from the basal ganglia, which is the major input and which is the major output? Okay, which is the major input and which is the major output? Input is your toll naka, that is your striatum. Output is your Andarwala road finally, that is the GPI. Okay, that is the GPI. Now remember that this is your substantia nigra pars compacta, not your pars reticulator, which is going to the striatum. So that is basically your nigrostriatal pathway, which has dopamine as the neurotransmitter. Okay, the blue color here is your dopamine. Now you have a direct pathway and you have an indirect pathway here. Remember that indirect pathway is inhibitory and it is 2, the dopamine receptor, D2 receptor. Remember, indirect, inhibitory, 1, 1, this becomes 2, so that the receptor is D2. D1 is your direct pathway and it is stimulatory pathway. Okay. So you have a direct pathway which is stimulatory, you have an indirect pathway which is inhibitory. Okay, which is inhibitory. So now everybody is clear, I hope. Let's go to the table, and before that, where are you seeing that glutamate is the neurotransmitter in these connections, right? Glutamate is the green one. Only here from the subthalamus and from the thalamus. So remember, the trick to remember this is glutamate, right? Glutamate is your thalamus and subthalamus basically. The TA helps you to remember that glutamate is your neurotransmitter at the subthalamus and the thalamus. All right. Again, this video is lost somewhere. Just a minute. Why does this happen? I am not able to again see the live chat. All right. So basically, remember that from the thalamus going to the cortex and from the subthalamus going to your GPI, that is the glutamate. So let's simplify this complicated table. I'm sure many of us struggle with this. So corpus striatum, the striatum is your toll naga. From where it is getting the input? It is your cortex, right? The cerebral cortex is going through it. And also we will see the substantia nigra pars compacta basically. So you have your output going from the striatum, the inner road or the external road, that is the GPE and the GPI. Neurotransmitter, majority of the places you'll see it is GABA. Dopamine is at your substantia nigra pars compacta, not the pars reticulata. Pars reticulata is your GABA. And then you have the GPE. From where it is getting the input? Tolnaka, GPE, striatum. It is going to your subthalamic nucleus and the GPI. GPI and SNPR, remember it is GABA. SNPR is your GABA. Substantia nigra pars compacta, senior police constable, that is your dopamine. GPI is getting again from the striatum and from the GPE, and from there it is giving output to the thalamus. What part of the thalamus? The VL and the VA, ventrolateral and ventroanterior. SNPC is basically your nigrostriatal pathway. Round and round, the input is from the striatum and going to the striatum, right? It's a closed loop and there you have dopamine. Ventrolateral thalamus, to where this basal ganglia is going. Basically, it's receiving from your GPI, right? And it's going to the premotor cortex. It is glutamate. So where are you seeing glutamate as the neurotransmitter? From the subthalamic nucleus and the thalamus, TA and TA. Where are we seeing dopamine? It is your substantia nigra pars compacta. So is this table clear with everyone? Just remember this drawing. Very, very important drawing that will help you remember all of this, the entire basal ganglia connections. Okay. Now, going to the next one. Yes, thank you. The painting is really very good, made by one of the students itself. So, thank you to that dear student for this. Okay. Going to the next one, the cerebellum layers and the inputs. Few important points that I want to highlight here. The cerebellum layers from outside to inside. Remember, it is my personal garden. Okay, it is your my personal garden. That is, you have molecular layer, the Purkinje layer, and your granule wala layer. Okay, this is my personal garden from outside to inside. Now, what is the output from the cerebellum? The only output from the cerebellum is which of these? Only output from the cerebellum. Remember, it is puking out, coming out. What is puking out? It is your Purkinje cells. Okay, it is your Purkinje cells. And what is your Purkinje? What is it? Is it inhibitory or is it excitatory? What is the output? Remember, it is Purkinje. It is your inhibitory output. Okay, it is your inhibitory output. Where it is going the output? It is going to the deep cerebellar nuclei. So basically, it is inhibiting the deep cerebellar nuclei. Next one, which is the only excitatory cell here in the cerebellum. Excitatory means the neurotransmitter is the glutamate. Which is the only one which is the excitatory? Remember, glutamate is your gluca granules. I'll show you the image to remember that. You have the glue, that is the adhesive. You get the granules. So it is the granule cells which is the glutamate. Okay, it is excitatory to the rest of the cells. Now, these are the most important points that you should remember. Let's have a look at the images. So you have my personal garden, molecular Purkinje and the granular layer from outside to inside. Purkinje layer is your Purkinje cells. And what fibers are coming to your Purkinje cells? You have these fibers, the climbing fibers. Okay, you have the climbing fibers coming to the Purkinje cells. Then you have in the granule cells, granular layer, basically the GG, That is your granule cell and the Golgi cell. Okay, the granule cell and the Golgi cell. So this cell which you are seeing, which is basically giving output to almost all the cells, okay, to all the cells in the cerebellum, that is your granule cell. And these fibers which are coming to the granule cell, these are called as mossy fibers. Okay, these are called as mossy fibers. So mossy come to the granule, and granule in turn is inhibited by this Golgi cell. Okay, it's the Golgi cell. And you have the Purkinje cell. Have a look at this image also. So basically this is the granule cell which is sending two parallel fibers to all the cells, the basket cell, the stellate cell, everywhere it is sending the output. And you can see that this granule cell is in turn inhibited by Golgi. So Golgi inhibits granule. What is the input to the granule? It is the mossy fiber. Okay, it's a mossy fiber. Your climbing fiber is basically going to the Purkinje. Okay, the climbing fiber is going to the Purkinje. Remember, this is your inferior olivary nucleus, not the superior olivary nucleus. Where have you read about the superior olivary nucleus? Where does it contribute? The superior olivary nucleus. Superior olivary nucleus is your auditory pathway. Okay, that is your auditory pathway. This is your inferior olive climbing going to the Purkinje. Okay, and then you have the Purkinje giving the output, and that is the inhibitory output. The only pink color that you are seeing here, that is basically from the granule, that is excitatory. Okay. So look at this one. This is the image I want you to remember. This is the glue granules. Okay, so this image is to help you remember. The glue granules, that is glutamate, is the neurotransmitter from the granule cells. They are excitatory. Okay, they are excitatory. So you have molecular layer, Purkinje layer, granular layer, molecular outermost. It has your stellate, basket, and the dendrites of Purkinje. They receive from the parallel fibers and they inhibit the Purkinje. Okay, Purkinje is your cell bodies of Purkinje cells. All right, and you have granular innermost. It contains the granule cells, input from the mossy fibers, and it is called as glomeruli. The synapse is called as glomerulus. So glomerulus is a messy thing. So remember, mossy fibers with granule is glomerulus. Okay, then you have the T shape. It is going the branches, parallel fibers. Granule cells form the only excitatory neurons. Okay, remember that. And Golgi cells send inhibitory to the granule. Only output from cerebellar cortex is inhibitory from the Purkinje to the deep cerebellar nuclei. Neurotransmitters, granule is glutamate. Rest all is gamma. Okay, so remember the glue granules. Very, very important. Okay. This is again the same thing that we have already seen, that Purkinje is the only output from the cerebellar cortex. It is your inhibitory output. Okay. And granule is the excitatory. Okay. It is your excitatory. Mossy fibers, Golgi cells are the connections. Okay. Climbing fibers, olivocerebellar tract, that is your inferior olivary, it goes to the Purkinje. Okay. It goes to the Purkinje. Okay. So out of the 5 cells, only the output from the granule is excitatory, glue granules. The rest is inhibitory. Okay, the rest is inhibitory. All right. Let's go to the next one. Now coming to the thalamus. Okay, let's revise about the thalamus. Quick points, quick revision of the thalamus. Give me a quick thumbs up, guys, that all of you are with me. After every topic, you need to give me a quick thumbs up so that I know that everybody is with me and there are no queries in whatever we have discussed so far. So a quick thumbs up before we go to thalamus. So basically, we have seen the basal ganglia connections and we have seen the cerebellum. Now we will see the thalamus. Amazing. All right. So let me see. Let the Josh be high. Okay. So let the Josh be very high. Amazing. So I can see that and it gets my Josh high. Thank you so much for that. Going to the next topic. that is your thalamus. And see, next time, apart from the thumbs up, you can also put some adjectives, however you are feeling. Okay, it's good, it is okay, it is awesome. You can let me know that as well after the next topic. Now, going to thalamus, before we go to the entire topic detail, quick mnemonics, quick tricks in the topic of thalamus. Okay. So in thalamus, tell me your mammillothalamic tract, basically your mammillary body wala. It is which nucleus of the thalamus? Which nucleus of the thalamus? Mammillary, the mammillothalamic tract. याद है किसी को? It is your anterior nucleus, right? It is your anterior nucleus. So remember that mammy, that is mummy. Mummy is our mother, is always in the front, right? We always keep our mother in the front. That is anterior. And I've also told you the rest of the things. Remember for anterior, so basically you have cingulate gyrus, and this is all basically a part of Papez circuit. Okay, Papez circuit. So basically remember that before becoming mummy or Papez is your papa, everybody is single. So all this is interconnected. So cingulate, mummy, mammillary, Papez, all this is anterior. Okay, this is all related to your anterior nucleus. Next one, your sensations from the limbs, from the body, and the sensation from the face. Where do they end in the thalamus? Which nucleus of the thalamus? Sensation from the limbs or the rest of the body, and sensations from the face, they end in which nucleus of the thalamus? From the limbs or the body and from the face. From the face, basically it is your trigeminothalamic tract, right? It's your trigeminal. Okay. This is your spinal lemniscus, the spinothalamic tract, basically. The spinothalamic tract, right? So remember it like this, like these are two people like this. Okay, two people like this. The faces together, close by. So this is, the face is basically medial. The rest of the body you can see is lateral. Okay, the rest of the body is lateral. So remember, like two people, face is medial. So the face, trigeminothalamic, is your VPM. The rest of the body is your VPL. Okay, the rest of the body is VPL. Coming to the next point in thalamus, your geniculate body. The medial geniculate body and the lateral geniculate body. What is medial geniculate body responsible for? Which pathway, which sensation, and what is lateral geniculate body for? What is medial geniculate body for and what is lateral geniculate body for? So remember, medial, M for music. Music matlab hearing. It is your auditory pathway. Lateral, L for light. So this is basically for vision. Okay, this is basically for vision. So remember, medial geniculate body is music, that is auditory. Lateral is your light. Okay, lateral is your light. From the cerebellum, where does the output go from the cerebellum to which nucleus of the thalamus? Basically from your dentate, it goes to your ventrolateral. Okay, from basal ganglia we said it is VA and VL. Cerebellum is your VL. Now look at this one. Okay, well, rather than this, let's go to the next mein jate hain. Look at the nucleus here, the anterior nucleus. This is your anterior nucleus where you have the mammillothalamic tract. You have the output, the cingulate gyrus. This is your Papez circuit. Okay, this is your Papez circuit. The VPL and the VPM, these are your ventral nuclei, right? So your ventral posterior, this is your VPL. You can see that the VPL here is basically your spinothalamic tract and the medial lemniscus, okay, from the body. Dread, your VPM here is your trigeminothalamic. If I'm hiding that, let me get it here. So to the VPM, this is your trigeminothalamic, that is the face, the medial and the taste. You have your medial geniculate body, lateral geniculate body, which is basically auditory and your vision. So remember, anterior, mammillothalamic, cingulate, and remember mammy is memory. So this is the one which is responsible for memory. Okay, this is the one responsible for memory. The next which is important, your ventral anterior, basically we said आपका जो basal ganglia है, that is your striatum वगैरह comes to this area. Ventral lateral, it is cerebellum, very very important. Okay, cerebellum is your ventral lateral. VPM, that is your trigeminal and gustatory, the taste, and VPL is basically your medial and spinal lemniscus, that is the sensation from the rest of the body. From here, the output, the sensation will go to the somatic sensory cortex 312. Which nuclei of the thalamus have no output to the cortex? The reticular. Reticular, remember, is like a network. Okay, reticular is like a network. So they are all networked together. They don't go anywhere else. So remember, it's basically going to the other thalamic nuclei. It's not going to the cortex. Okay, this is your reticular nuclei. Okay. And this is your medial geniculate body, which is hearing. Lateral is light, which is basically your visual. Okay. So this all has been shown again, the same thing which has been shown here basically. Okay, so your globus pallidus interna, which is the output, going to the ventro anterior. Cerebellum वगैरह आपका जाएगा ventrolateral, very very important. Medial spinous lemniscus, VPL. Trigeminal, that is your trigeminal is your the VPM. Okay, that's your VPM. This is the most important to be remembered here. Okay. All right. So which of the following thalamic nuclei, the spinothalamic fibers from the rest of the body, that is your VPL. Cerebellar fibers is your ventral lateral. Okay, cerebellar fibers is your ventral lateral. Okay. So done with the next topic. I've just told you the most important points in the thalamus, right? Big topics. We are just doing like in 5 minutes and 10 minutes. Done? All right, a quick thumbs up again. Going to the next topic, that is the summary of the muscle reflexes. That is your stretch reflex, that is your Golgi tendon reflex, and the flexor withdrawal reflex. Okay. Now, stretch reflex. Okay, the stretch reflex basically is your muscle spindle wala. Okay, that is your muscle spindle wala. Remember, spindle is your stretch reflex. Okay, and muscle spindle, remember all of this. Okay, remember all of this. EG बस थोड़े से waves हैं, detail में नहीं है. ठीक है. All right, great. So spindle, basically remember, spindle is responsible for the stretch reflex, and spindle basically senses the length of the muscle fiber. Okay, the length. So when you stretch the muscle, the response would be to contract. Okay, to contract it. So the stimulus is the muscle stretching and the response is the contraction. Remember, muscle spindle, MS, muscle spindle is your monosynaptic. Okay, the muscle spindle, stretch reflex, it is your monosynaptic. Okay, it's your monosynaptic. And the afferent is your 1A. Okay, the afferent is 1A. For Golgi tendon reflex, okay, remember the Golgi tendon. Golgi tendon, what is the response? It is opposite of the stretch reflex. Okay, remember Golgi is like let's go of the contraction. It is lengthening reaction basically. So what is the response? It is the opposite. It is the relaxation. You don't want the muscle to tear. So it is the relaxation. Golgi, when you write GI, okay, the GI, read it like the ulta, the mirror image. G is like B. Remember, 1B is your afferent from the Golgi tendon. And tendon tells you that it senses the tension, right? It senses the tension. It does not want the muscle to rupture. So it causes the relaxation. And T for 2, remember Golgi tendon is a bisynaptic reflex. Flexor withdrawal reflex, the major reflex like bada sa naam, it is polysynaptic. So basically, if you have, you're touching something hot or something painful, you want to withdraw out of it, right? So that the body is not damaged. So what is the response? It is the flexion, same side flexion, opposite side extension, contralateral extension. So that is your polysynaptic. Okay, that is your polysynaptic reflex basically. So anything, this is what I wanted to summarize here for your muscle reflexes. Remember, muscle spindle is basically your monosynaptic wala. Muscle spindle is your stretch reflex. It is your 1A is the afferent, and the response is when you are stretching the muscle, you want to contract it. So the response is contraction. Second, the Golgi tendon. Okay, the Golgi tendon. So remember that the tension is sensed by the Golgi tendon. The afferent is your GI, it's like your 1B. T42, it is bisynaptic. And Golgi is basically go, the contraction goes and the lengthening happens. So basically it is relaxation. It is your inverse stretch reflex. Okay, it's your inverse stretch reflex. Edwin, I'm so sorry I've not covered your spray endings and the bag fibers here. Basically, your muscle spindle wala, the primary and the secondary, right? The annulospiral wala, wo cover yahan nahi kiya. I've just given you the quick review of what is the most important thing here. Okay? All right, going to the next one. Second messengers, I'm sure all of you must have revised this. This is a very, very important topic basically. That is your second messengers. Okay, a very, very important topic. We'll go to the next one. Edwin, maybe I'll cover it in one of the NF100 in detail. Okay, with all the pathway. So all of you know the mnemonics for the second messengers. What are the mnemonics for a second messengers? So you have cyclic AMP, you have cyclic GMP, you have IP3DAG, and we have your tyrosine kinase, right? And we have your tyrosine kinase. So remember, first starting with tyrosine kinase, TY, the mnemonic is dirty pig. Okay, it is the dirty pig. So remember, for tyrosine kinase, it is your pig, that is prolactin, insulin, growth hormone, and the growth factors. So this you see here, tyrosine kinase. Remember the pig, prolactin, insulin, and the growth hormone. Like growth hormone, you have IGF-1. Okay. Next one, your steroid hormones. Remember the STDs. Okay, the STDs. That is your all the steroid hormone. Basically, these are your intracellular receptors. Intracellular. So all the steroid hormones coming from the adrenal, mineralocorticoid, glucocorticoid, the sex steroids. So aldosterone, glucocorticoid, all of them, they are your intracellular. Plus you have TND, that is your thyroid hormone, and the vitamin D. For cyclic GMP, remember your GANA. Okay, GMP for GANA, it is A is your ANP, N is your nitric oxide. So very, very important, nitric oxide is your cyclic GMP. Okay. Then you have your most important cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP is basically CAMP. Okay, it is CAMP. So in the CAMP, remember when you are going for a CAMP, you have the base area first. So that base area is a flat area. So base, flat, CAMP. Okay, that is the mnemonic here. What is the base? Base stands for basophils, secreted by the basophils of the anterior pituitary. What are those hormones? Flat. What is flat? FSH, LH, ACTH, and TSH. So this is basically your, the first four, you can see it is flat. Base flat. This is your hormones. Next one, you have your CAMP. What is CAMP for? You have a CRH, calcitonin, right? There is ADH. I'll come to this. It's your V2, which is the cyclic AMP. You have MSH and you have PTH. All of these are cyclic AMP. The other mnemonic to add to this is your beta HCG. So the beta 1, beta 2 receptors. Then you have HCG ka HCG. Another C you want to add calcitonin, and you have glucagon. So basically remember the mnemonic for cyclic AMP is base flat CAMP. Okay, base flat CAMP, and it is beta HCG. So the beta receptors, your NEET PG 21 question is cyclic AMP increasing. For the ADH, it is your V2 which is cyclic AMP. V1. 1 is like I. It is your IP3DAG for the V1 receptor. Okay, very, very important. What do you have for IP3DAG or calcium? Remember IP3, that is PPP, is basically your PP, that is the posterior pituitary hormones. I के पहले आता है H, so the hypothalamic hormones. So majority of the releasing hormones, GnRH, TRH, GHRH, they are your phospholipase C, that is IP3DAG. Posterior ADH and oxytocin. Okay, ADH and oxytocin, and your alpha 1, that is basically your IP3DAG. Okay, that is your IP3DAG. Okay. So this is the mnemonic basically for your second messengers. Okay, remember this is for second messengers. Very, very important. So suppose if I ask you the second messengers, okay, what is the second messenger for TRH, for TSH, and for the thyroid hormones? What is the second messenger for each of these? What is the second messenger for each of these basically? Remember, TRH, the releasing hormone, except your CRH, hypothalamus, it is IP3DAG. TSH, it is your base flat wala, it is your basophil flat camp, it is cyclic AMP. For the thyroid hormones, it is STD, it is your intracellular receptor. Okay, it is your intracellular receptor. Okay, and remember the beta receptors, ANS, it is your increasing the cyclic AMP. Okay, it's your increasing the cyclic AMP. Okay, done with the second messengers also, everyone. That was very, very rapid. The quick revision of the second messengers. Yes, a quick thumbs up if we are done with this topic as well. Yes, amazing. Vitamin A, also some books put here in the steroid hormone. Okay, some books put here as well, the vitamin A. Okay. Going to the next one, your flow volume curves, basically the respiratory one. Okay, the respiratory one. So the trick to remember here is E is for I and I is for E. Okay, E is for I and I is for E. So what does that mean basically? When it's a variable extrathoracic obstruction, it is your inspiration which is affected. Okay, it is your inspiratory curve which is affected. When it is your intrathoracic obstruction, it is the expiratory curve which is affected. Okay. So remember that. Look at this one. This is the normal curve that we are seeing. So in the variable ones, this is the inspiratory. If the inspiratory is becoming flat, it is your extrathoracic obstruction. If it is your intrathoracic, it is the expiration which is affected. Okay. So remember, E is for I and I is for E. For extrathoracic inspiration, for intrathoracic expiration is affected. Now, when you see this like a dog leg, basically like this, the expiration getting slow as well, it is the obstructive pattern, expiration affected. When both are affected, inspiration and expiration, it's a fixed upper airway obstruction, like your tracheal stenosis. Okay. And when you see that the curve is the same, the slope is the same, but it's only the volume which is reduced. That means it is your restrictive pattern. Okay, it's your restrictive pattern. Easy. So remember, when both are affected, it is basically your fixed. It will affect both. Variable extrathoracic inspiration, intrathoracic expiration. So the lower one is the inspiration, the upper one is the expiration. When the entire curve is small, it is restrictive. When the expiration is affected, it is obstructive. Because we know that in obstructive, it is like your FEV1 which is affected, the expiration is affected. All right. When you are given a graph like this, and you are said that this is normal, identify what is this disease. So remember, easy trick to remember is restrictive disease. The shift is to the right. Okay, it shifts to the right. Obstructive is opposite to the left. So in this restrictive disease, so basically your 6 and your 1.5, 1.6 here, this represents your TLC and this is your residual volume. So basically this is the volume. From your total lung capacity, if I am subtracting the residual volume, what is that equal to? You can get a graph based question like this. Calculate the vital capacity. So vital capacity is everything except the residual volume, right? So this is the vital capacity. Here you are seeing basically shift to the left. That means the TLC is increased. The lung is hyperinflated and obstructive lung disease. That is why the shift is to the left. Here the TLC is reduced, right? That means that it is a restrictive lung disease. Also have a look at the expiratory curve. You can see it is relatively slower. The slope is not that steep. Obstructive, the expiration is affected. So easy trick to remember that restrictive shifts to the right. Okay, restrictive shifts to the right. Okay. Next one. I think maybe this might be the last topic that we would be discussing, considering the time that we have. Okay, that is respiratory regulation. Okay, the respiratory regulation. Everybody is clear with this, the graphs and the flow volume curves basically. E, I, E and the fixed one, restrictive and obstructive. Basic concept, remember that obstructive is basically your expiration which will be affected. Okay, and you will have a lot of the air being held inside, so the volumes increase. Okay. Coming to respiratory regulation, what is a pacemaker? Regulating the rate of respiration. Pacemaker regulating the rate of respiration. Pacemaker is your pre-Botzinger. Remember P for P, it is your pre-Botzinger. Okay, the pre-Botzinger complex. Now look at this, quickly revising this. So pre-Botzinger is the pacemaker for the respiration. Okay. Then you have, remember, dive. That is DRG, the dorsal respiratory group. It is your inspiratory ramp signal. Okay. And the VRG, the ventral, is your expiration when it's an overdrive mechanism. Okay. In the expiration, overdrive. Pneumotaxic and apneustic. Pneumotaxic, remember pneumotaxic is toxic. Pneu means apneu. So remember pneumotaxic is toxic to the apneustic center. That means basically it switches off the inspiratory ramp signal. Why? Because basically apneustic center is promoting the inspiration. So what does apneustic center does basically? Apnea, basically a lot of inspiration. It tries to do a lot of inspiration. It promotes the inspiration, right? Pneumotaxic is toxic to the apneustic. It stops the inspiratory ramp signal, okay? And vagus basically inhibits the inspiratory discharge, okay? It inhibits the inspiratory discharge. So that is about vagus. So remember basically here you have dive, dorsal inspiratory, ventral expiratory, and pneumotaxic is toxic to the apneustic center, right? And apneustic means it increases your inspiration, prolongs your inspiratory ramp signal. Apneustic stops it. Okay, the pneumotaxic stops it. So which is located in the upper pons, which is located in the lower pons? So basically your PP, the pneumotaxic and the apneustic. Since the pneumotaxic is controlling the apneustic, it is located above, right? It's at an above level. So look at the diagram here. This is the pons. PP, you have pneumotaxic center, you have apneustic center. In the upper pons, you have the pneumotaxic center. In the lower pons here, you are having your apneustic center. The rest of them is all your DRG, VRG. They are located in the medulla. Okay. So now coming to the point of what will happen with what transaction. So basically all your respiration is in the pons and the medulla. So if the transaction is above the pons, nothing will happen. It is all normal. Okay, nothing will happen. It is all normal. If the transaction is below the medulla, basically all the outputs are not there. The outputs are all cut for the respiration. so the respiration will stop. So above the pons, below the medulla. Next one, now coming to the mid pons. If the mid pons transaction is happening, so basically the pneumotaxic controlling the apneustic is gone. So apneustic will be all independent, like the parents, the father controlling the son or the daughter. If there are, the parents are not there, then it's all like being free and doing whatever you want. Apneustic wants to increase the inspiration. So that is why it will prolong the inspiration. And look at this one. When does apneusis develop? Only if the vagus is also cut. क्योंकि अगर आपके ये पेरेंट्स नहीं है, यहाँ पे न्यूमोटैक्सिक सेंटर नहीं है, but there is the uncle, that is the vagus, which is inhibiting. Okay, so if you have mid-pontine level with the vagus intact, if the parents are not there but the uncle is there, so the regular breathing continues. If no parents, no uncles, then is when the apneustic center becomes all free and independent and the apneusis develops. Okay, so remember, this is very important that a mid-pontine level, it is basically your apneusis with the vagus cut. Okay, with the vagus cut. Okay, complete transaction above the pons, everything will continue if the vagus is intact. If the vagus is also cut, that means that inhibitory, inspiratory, that inhibition is lost. So the depth of inspiration will increase in that case. If it is between pons and medulla, so it would be your irregular but rhythmic respiration. It would be irregular क्योंकि pneumotaxic और apneustic चले गए. Below the medulla हुआ तो सब कुछ बंद हो जाएगा. ठीक है? So please remember the very important point. Apneusis is like the freedom to the apneustic center. It develops when both are gone. So that means the pneumotaxic is also gone. The vagus is also gone. Where is the pneumotaxic located? Upper pons. So if you cut below that, that is the mid pons. That is when the apneusis will develop with the vagus cut. Okay, with the vagus cut, the apneusis will develop. If the vagus is intact, the regular respiration will continue. Okay, the regular respiration will continue. Last point, coming to your types of respiration. Everybody tell me now, are you clear with the respiratory centers regulation? The DRG, the VRG, the pneumotaxic, and the apneustic, right? Okay. Now I need some water, right? So let's quickly finish this. The next topic, the types of respiration, waiting for the quick thumbs up from everyone. Coming to the last short topic, that is the types of respiration. Okay, the types of respiration. Okay. So look at these types of respiration. Basically, this is showing normal. Okay. So now look at this. The first one. What do you think is this respiration here? What do you think is this type of respiration here? You can see the crescendo, decrescendo, then there is nothing, crescendo, decrescendo pattern. Remember, your crescendo is basically your CS, that is your chain Stokes breathing. Okay, that is your chain Stokes breathing. Okay, and then you have the next one where you see this hyperapnea and there is apnea. Hyper and apnea. So basically, this is biphasic. So remember, this is like biphasic, high, absent, high, absent. Biphasic is your biots. Okay, that is your biots. And the one where you have the rate is also increased, right? This is your cusmols. Okay, that is your cusmols, which is seen with metabolic acidosis, right? Like diabetic ketoacidosis, we see the cusmols. So those are the types of respiration. Quick tips on how to identify. Okay, crescendo, chain strokes, biphasic is biots, and you have your cusmols breathing. Okay, and your cusmols breathing. All right. So yes, guys, we need to stop here considering the time, right? Otherwise, now we'll have Kyra coming here, entering in and giving a pleasant surprise, right? So time for her to sleep. We'll stop here. And whenever the time permits, we'll try and continue the rest. The PDF is already there on the Telegram group. You can please check that out, and I'll be sharing this one as well. Okay. What's the plan for tomorrow? As mentioned, tomorrow 10 p.m. on the Unacademy app, free special class KBMD, that is your fast 5. Okay, the fast 5 clinical questions, very, very important to develop the concepts and the tricks of solving the MCQs. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I hope you have enjoyed learning physiology from this session, and it gave you a quick review of the important topics. Goodbye. Take care. Keep studying, keep revising, and keep winning. And good night, everyone. Take a good